Chapter 44:17. Now, I'll announce the rules for entering the third tier. There are a total of 14 slots for the first 3 tiers, 4 slots for the first 2 tiers, and 1 slot for the first tier. In the later rounds, we'll decide the rankings from the 1st to the 14th. The old voice sounded again. Everyone was shocked. It seemed that the top 14 would be decided in the later rounds. The following battle would be the final battle, the most important one. However, not all 49 of you are qualified to participate in the later rounds because it's not necessary. I've decided that the top 3 of each battle platform will be qualified to participate in the final round. The old voice continued to announce. What? Many people's expressions changed. Only the top 3 rankers of each battle platform would be able to participate in the final battle. The others would have to stop there and be eliminated. Some people were unwilling to accept this, especially those who possessed 11-star combat strength. Among them, there was a son of heaven. According to the rules announced by the old voice, only the top 3 of each battle platform would be qualified to participate in the later rounds. The 7 battle platforms added up to 21 people. However, there were more than 21 people with 11-star combat strength and above. Now, those who were suspected to possess 12-star combat strength were Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Dark Knight Rose, Wn Shen, Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, and Yi Qiuxian. There were a total of 7 people. There were a total of 17 people with 11-star combat strength. Adding them up, there were 24 people. In this way, 3 people with 11-star combat strength were excluded. The 3 of them were unwilling to accept this and thought that they still had a chance to compete. Before these people could say anything, the old voice rang out again. I know that some of you will feel indignant and think that you are just unlucky. There are too many experts on your battle platforms. Hence, I will give you all a chance. The 4th to 7th place of each battle platform will have a chance to challenge one of the 21 people. You can choose any one of the 21 people. As long as you can defeat your opponent, you'll be able to replace your opponent. Remember, everyone only has one chance, and you can't challenge the same person all the time. Now, let's begin, the old voice announced. When the old voice sounded out, the 7 battle stages in the air started to gather together and eventually formed a single battle stage. And the top 3 of each battle platform surrounded the battle platforms. As for the 4th to 7th rankers of each battle platform, they retreated, distancing themselves from the battle prowess of their opponents. However, they weren't teleported out of the light barrier. This meant that they still had a chance to challenge their opponents. There were 28 people who had one chance to challenge. These 28 people immediately swept their gazes over Lu Ming and the others. Of course, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yi Chu Tianji, and Yi Ling Hongye, the 7 suspected to have 12-star battle prowess, were directly ignored. A 12-star battle prowess wasn't something that they could deal with. Thus, there was no need to even consider it. Their targets were the other 11 stars, especially Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others. If they fought alone, it would be easy for them to be restrained. I'll go first. Immediately, a voice rang out. It came from an existence on the Universe Prodigy list. This person was ranked 2nd on the Universe Prodigy list. His name was Ning Tai, and he was also very powerful with a battle prowess of 10 stars. His reaction was very fast. While others were still observing, he directly issued a challenge. Aloud, the old voice rang out, and the lotus beneath Ning Tai's feet automatically flew out. Damn it, he beat me to it. Damn it, I hope he doesn't choose those people. The others roared in their hearts, especially the 3 prodigies who possessed a battle prowess of 11 stars. They were roaring in their hearts, and their hearts were filled with annoyance. They secretly blamed themselves for being one step slower. They had already targeted Ling Yue, Dandan, and the others, secretly praying that they wouldn't be chosen by Ning Tai. Because if they were chosen by Ning Tai, they wouldn't have a chance and could only challenge others later. I choose her. Ning Tai pointed at Ling Yue. As expected, many people nodded in their hearts. Ning Tai had indeed chosen one of these people. Damn it. The 3 11 stars prodigies roared in their hearts. They were very unwilling. An easier person to deal with had been chosen. The lotus beneath Ling Yue's feet flew forward and towards the battle platform. The two of them flew onto the battle platform and faced each other. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Ning Tai's body. His glabella glowed, and a golden light burst out. His entire body was enveloped by the golden light, and his body seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. This is the origin ancient character. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Looking at it from a close distance, and with the other party using all his strength, Lu Ming could easily see that the other party also controlled the origin ancient character. There was an ancient character between Ning Tai's eyebrows that was faintly discernible. If one looked carefully, they could see that it should be the word gold. With a swoosh, Ning Tai rushed towards Ling Yue. He was also using Yi Chu Chenua's tactic to close the distance between the two of them. He only had 10 stars of battle prowess, and Ling Yue had 11 stars. If he didn't close the distance between the two of them, he probably wouldn't even be able to block an arrow from Ling Yue. Only by closing the distance and attacking the opponent's weakness would he have a chance of winning. However, this time, Ling Yue didn't retreat. Behind her, a towering tree took root in the air, and a huge amount of essence qi continuously flowed into Ling Yue's body, continuing to provide her with strength. She didn't attack either, allowing Ning Tai to approach. Soon, the distance between the two sides was less than 1,000 meters. A good chance. Ning Tai's eyes lit up. He let out a light shout and a golden light burst forth. Densely packed metal weapons appeared around his body. These were not divine armaments brought from the outside world, but evolved from the gold word. Dozens of weapons charged towards Ling Yue. At this moment, a dense number of arrows suddenly burst out from Ling Yue's body. These arrows were actually shot out from the pores all over her body. It was unknown how many tiny arrows had gathered together to form a shield. Clang! 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 Ning Tai's attack landed on the shield formed by the arrows, causing a violent vibration. However, it was blocked in the end. 10 stars of battle prowess. Do you think it's useful just by closing the distance? How naive. Ling Yue's slightly cold voice rang out, and then, her body arched. His body bent backwards, his hands and feet connected. His entire body was like a bow. With a buzzing sound, Ling Yue's body trembled like a bowstring, and then her entire body shot out. The moment she shot out, she turned into an arrow and shot towards Ning Tai. Ning Tai's expression changed drastically. From between his brows, the ancient character gold flew out. Metal weapons condensed one after another, slashing towards the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into. Chapter 44:18. Boom. With a violent explosion, the weapons that Ning Tai had slashed out continuously shattered. In the blink of an eye, all of the weapons shattered into pieces. Although the arrow that Ling Yue had transformed into was slightly dimmer, it still retained some of its power and continued to shoot towards Ning Tai. With a bang, a large hole appeared in Ning Tai's chest. He retreated backwards until he reached the edge of the stage. His face was pale as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. 11 stars of battle strength might be useful to me if I close the distance. 10 stars of battle strength, and you want to use the same method? How laughable. Ling Yue said, as if she wanted to vent all her resentment towards Lu Ming on others. Her long skirt fluttered as a battle bow condensed. An arrow appeared and aimed at Ning Tai. At such a distance, Ling Yue's arrow was able to unleash its strongest power. Ning Tai felt his muscles tense up as a strong sense of danger enveloped his entire body. He was already injured from that move just now. Now that he had pulled away, he definitely wouldn't be able to block Ling Yue's strongest attack. It was very likely that he would be instantly killed by an arrow. Although they could revive after being killed here, no one wanted to personally experience the feeling of being killed. I admit defeat. Ning Tai shouted loudly, directly admitting defeat. Seeing that Ning Tai had admitted defeat, Ling Yue also dispersed her bow and arrow and retracted her aura. Lu Ming nodded silently. This scene was within his expectations. After all, Ning Tai and Ling Yue were 1 star apart. The same method might be useful against Yi Chu Qianyu, but it might not be useful against Ning Tai. Although Ling Yue's close combat ability wasn't strong, she would be at a disadvantage against an opponent of the same level and star rank. However, that didn't mean that she would be helpless against an opponent whose star rank was weaker than hers. Although her close combat ability couldn't deal with Yi Chu Qianyu, it was enough to deal with Ning Tai. Therefore, Ning Tai failed. The challenge has failed. Get out. An old voice sounded, and then a force acted on Ning Tai's body. In the next moment, Ning Tai's body disappeared from his original spot and appeared outside the light barrier. He had been eliminated. From a participant, he had become a bystander. As for Ling Yue, she had stabilized the first 21 spots. The others were unable to continue challenging him. I'll challenge you. I challenge you. At this moment, 5 or 6 voices sounded at the same time. This time, 5 or 6 people issued challenges at the same time, fearing that the person they liked would be chosen by others. You're the first to speak. Go ahead and challenge him. The old man's voice rang out, and a lotus flower flew out. This was a son of heaven, possessing 11 stars of battle prowess. This person was overjoyed. As for the others, they were inwardly furious. They were just a bit slower than the other party, but in the end, the other party was one step ahead of them. I want to challenge him, that world turtle. The emperor pointed at Dandan. As expected, he chose Dandan. In a one-on-one fight, Dandan was indeed not strong. Mother *K, do you really think I'm easy to bully? Dandan was extremely displeased and gritted his teeth. However, Dandan could not refuse a challenge. The two of them stepped onto the battle platform, and the battle began. Dandan retreated from the beginning and then frantically set up formations. Runes flew out from every pore of his, and one formation after another appeared. In an instant, the entire battle platform was filled with formations. However, these formations were only set up in a short period of time. Although there were many of them, their power was ultimately limited. This son of heaven of the heavenly human clan also controlled 2 types of supreme heavenly powers. When combined, the power was extremely shocking. Every time he blasted out a move, a large area of array formations would be destroyed. Although Dandan kept setting up formations, the speed of setting up formations was still not as fast as the speed of the other party breaking them. The two of them fought for more than half an hour. In the end, Dandan was at a disadvantage. He was no match for the other party and was defeated. Mother *K, if you give me a little more time, I will definitely beat you into a bastard. Bah, beat you into a dead dog, Dandan cursed and was finally teleported out. Then, the challenge continued. Next, another expert with a combat strength of 11 stars challenged Bubble. However, in the end, this person was defeated by Bubble. Then, the third person with a combat strength of 11 stars also issued a challenge. He challenged a monster from Heaven Destroyer. However, it still ended in failure. Since then, the 3 people with a combat strength of 11 stars had all challenged each other. There were still some people with a combat strength of 10 stars left. Those people looked at each other with a solemn expression. Those who were easy to deal with had all been defeated. None of the remaining people were easy to deal with. In the end, a few people with a combat strength of 10 stars were unwilling to give up and issued challenges one after another. However, in the end, they were all defeated in a crushing manner. Some of them were even killed on the spot. In this way, the remaining people shook their heads and gave up on the challenge. It was meaningless. The gap was too big. Even if they challenged, they would not succeed. Just like that, the 21 people who were qualified to participate in the next competition were determined. The next rules are very simple. Just like before, each person will take turns to fight with the other 20 people. In the end, the strongest 14 people will be ranked according to the results of the battle. The first place will obtain the first tier position, the second place to the 4th place will obtain the second tier position, the 5th place to the 14th place will obtain the 3rd tier position. Let's start the competition. As his voice fell, 2 lotuses flew toward the fighting ring. It's Yi Chu Tianji. The other person is from Heaven Destroyer. The spectators outside were discussing animatedly. Autumn Moon, Lu Ming whispered. That's right. The first round was between Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji. Autumn Moon, you don't have to fight this round. Just admit defeat. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon had a combat strength of 11 stars while Yichu Tianji had a combat strength of 12 stars. He had mastered 3 types of ultimate heavenly power. Previously, Autumn Moon and Yichu Tianji had fought. The gap between them was indeed huge. Autumn Moon was definitely not a match for Yichu Tianji. If he insisted on fighting, he would definitely be injured or even killed. There was no need for that. It was better to conserve his strength and fight with those who also had a combat strength of 11 stars. With Autumn Moon's strength, he might be able to enter the top 14 and obtain the 3rd-tier position. Millimeter. Autumn Moon nodded. I admit defeat. As soon as Autumn Moon stepped onto the fighting ring, he admitted defeat. Humph. Yichu Tianji snorted unhappily. He had wanted to seize the opportunity to suppress Autumn Moon and attack Lu Ming. Obviously, Autumn Moon would not give him the chance. In the first round, Autumn Moon lost. The second round was about to begin. In the second round, Di Jenny was against Yichu Qianyu. The two of them fought fiercely. However, Di Jenny lived up to his name as an exceptional character from a small Kiliakasm. He was also the main character of a small Kiliakasm. He was extremely powerful. After the two of them fought for over 100 moves, Di Jenny defeated Yichu Qianyu. Yichu Qianyu's combat strength was not the best among the 9 heavenly daughters. He was ranked at the bottom. Chapter 44:19. In the first match of the first round, Autumn Moon admitted defeat and Yichu Tianji won. In the second match, Di Jenny defeated Yichu Qianyu. Then, it was the third match. In this match, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list faced a genius from the Heaven Destroyer. After more than 200 moves, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, Ling Heng, won. In the fourth match, it was Xian Yanqing's turn. His opponent was a daughter of heaven who had a battle power of 11 stars. This daughter of heaven was unwilling to admit defeat when facing Xian Yanqing. Instead, she launched a fierce attack to find an opportunity to win. However, in the end, she was suppressed by Xian Yanqing and defeated in a few moves. Then, those who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars appeared one after another. Wan Shen, Dark Knight Rose, Yi Qiuxian, Yi Ling Hongye, they won without much effort, because everyone who met them admitted defeat one after another. Bubble's opponent was Dark Knight Rose. Bubble also admitted defeat. Of the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars, Lu Ming was the last to appear. His opponent also stunned Lu Ming. It was Ling Yuwei. He met Ling Yuwei again in the first match. Lu Ming smiled bitterly in his heart. I admit defeat. Ling Yuwei was very straightforward. She admitted defeat and returned to the battle stage. Soon, the first round ended. In this round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars didn't meet each other and won easily. There were also a few who had a battle power of 11 stars who won. Di Jenny, the number 1 genius on the Universe Prodigy list, and a son of heaven from the celestial race, of course, there were a total of 21 people. In one round, there were 20 people fighting and 10 matches. There would be an extra person. Of course, this person wouldn't be free. He would also meet an opponent, and his opponent would be one of the 20 people in front of him. However, it didn't matter. Everyone would eventually fight with the other 20 people. It was the same sooner or later. They just had to take turns. After the first round, it was the second round. In the second round, the 7 who were suspected to have a battle power of 12 stars still didn't meet each other. On the other hand, Lu Ming's opponent was Bubbles. Bubbles, of course, admitted defeat. For 2 consecutive matches, Lu Ming had encountered his own people. Without moving a single finger, he had obtained 2 consecutive victories. And in the second round, other than the 7 existences that were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess that had won, there were 4 other people that had won. The other Son of Heaven had obtained victory. On the other hand, Emperor Jenny and the number 1 on the Universe Genius list had also won. The last one was the Mid-Autumn Moon. In this match, Autumn Moon had defeated a son of heaven. After 2 rounds of fighting, other than the 7 who were suspected to possess 12-star battle prowess, a few particularly powerful people in the 11-star battle prowess area had already emerged. They were Emperor Jenny, number 1 on the Universe Genius list. There were also 2 sons of heaven, Autumn Moon and Autumn. These 5 people were believed to be the ones who could enter the top 14. Of course, he couldn't be completely sure. It was just an estimate. This was because some people were unlucky and encountered people with 12-star battle prowess in 2 consecutive rounds. However, this did not mean that they were weak. The final ranking would only be known after all the battles. The second round ended, and the third round began. The 7 people with 12-star battle prowess still did not encounter each other. And Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually the Mid-Autumn Moon. The Mid-Autumn Moon naturally admitted defeat. This made Lu Ming rather speechless. Why can't I fight against my own people? I have a body full of power, but I can't unleash it. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His face was filled with grief as he lamented the unfairness of fate. If other people were to know his thoughts, they would probably vomit blood from anger. It was impossible for others to win easily. Who knew how many people were envious of Lu Ming? This Lu Ming, why is he so lucky to encounter so many beauties, and they all seem to be with him? That's right, what kind of luck is this? It's really infuriating. Many of the onlookers were unhappy. How many beauties were there among the 21 people participating in the competition? More than half of them had a close relationship with Lu Ming. How could people not be envious? The competition was carried out one by one. From the 3rd round onwards, someone who was suspected to have a 12-star battle prowess finally met. That was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. I admit defeat. Xian Yanqing smiled slightly and returned to the lotus. The onlookers were speechless. Everyone was speechless. Without looking, they knew that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming had a close relationship. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing also had a 12-star battle prowess. Why would he admit defeat without a fight? Admitting defeat was equivalent to giving up the qualification for first place. Who would give up easily when both of them had a 12-star battle prowess? However, Xian Yanqing gave up. Everyone was prepared to watch an exciting peak battle. Unfortunately, it was over before it even started. I'm jealous. I hate it. Many people wailed. No matter what kind of emotions they had, the competition would not stop. After a while, the 5th round ended and the 6th round began. Lu Ming's opponent for this round was actually someone he knew. Wan Shun. Although his opponent for this round was not a woman, it was actually Wan Shun. No matter what, they are all on the same side. It must be intentional. Even Lu Ming muttered to himself. This was too much of a coincidence. If it was not intentional, how could it be so coincidental? Lu Ming himself could not believe it. Lu Ming and Wan Shun stood opposite each other on the fighting ring. They will probably fight in this round. Although Wan Shun and Lu Ming are considered members of the Heaven Exterminating Army, neither of them will give up easily in the fight for the top spot. There will be an intense battle between the Heavenly Sons and Daughters. They will definitely take action. Wan Shun is suspected to be a pure primordial god, while Lu Ming has a taboo body. Once they clash, it will be very exciting. Who do you think will win? Everyone was discussing animatedly, looking forward to an exciting battle. Lu Ming, are you confident of getting first place? In the arena, Wan Shun asked Lu Ming through voice transmission. I'm 80% confident. Lu Ming replied through voice transmission. The reason why he did not say he was 100% confident was because he was not sure if anyone was hiding their strength. It was easy to tell one's cultivation, but it was difficult to tell one's strength unless it was revealed. Among them, was there anyone who was hiding their strength? Dark Night Rose, Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, Yi Qiuxian, especially Yi Qiuxian, Lu Ming could not see through him. He felt that he was hiding his strength very deeply and even made him feel a little pressured. 80% confidence. That's enough. I don't even have 20% confidence. I'll let you win this round. I'll leave first place to you. Shen replied through voice transmission. Then he said loudly, "I admit defeat." As his voice rang out, Shen had already stepped back onto the fighting ring. The onlookers, end of chapter. Chapter 44:20. The onlookers were completely speechless. However, their envy, jealousy, and hatred towards Lu Ming had reached its peak. Another person admitted defeat. There were a total of 7 people who were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess, and 2 of them had already admitted defeat to Lu Ming. How much strength could this save for Lu Ming? Even Yi Chu Tianji, Yi Ling Hongye, and the others revealed looks of envy. How much effort would it take to defeat an existence with 12-star battle prowess? How much strength would it consume? It would definitely be a tragic battle. However, Lu Ming won 2 matches in a row without drawing blood. Just like that, Lu Ming easily won 6 consecutive matches. As for the other 12-star battle prowess, he had yet to meet them. However, after 6 rounds of confrontation, some of the more outstanding ones in the 11-star battle prowess region slowly revealed themselves. They were believed to be the most likely to enter the top 14. Di Jenny, Ling Heng, the number 1 on the Universe Prodigy list, Autumn Moon, the 3 Sons of Heaven, and Bubbles. These 7 people were the most optimistic and believed to be the most likely to enter the top 14. As for the others, their battle records were slightly worse. For example, Ling Yue was easily fought over and ranked at the bottom. Of course, Ling Yue was not without victories, and there were also people who would be restrained by her. For example, those who were slow and had strong defense. It was very difficult for such people to close the distance between them and Ling Yue, and they became a moving target. However, Ling Yue's attack power was extremely strong. Under Ling Yue's continuous attacks, even a strong defense could be broken through. However, there were not many people like her. As for Bubbles, although she was the king of support, her ability to fight alone was also very strong. Time and space could also unleash extremely strong attack power. The key was that it was very difficult for others to attack Bubbles. Even if Bubbles used this move, she could exhaust her opponent to the point of exhaustion. Bubbles won a few matches, and they were all defeated after exhausting her opponent to the point of exhaustion. As for Di Jenny, Ling Heng, and Autumn Moon, the 3 Sons of Heaven, they all had terrifying attack power and almost had no shortcomings. In a battle of the same level, their battle prowess was extremely strong. Soon, the competition entered the 7th round. This time, there were finally other powerhouses who were suspected to have 12-star battle prowess. Yi Chouxian, Yi Chu Tianji, Celestial Clan's 2 exceptional monsters actually faced off against each other. Many people looked expectant. This time, there should be a pinnacle showdown. Who would win and who would lose? Yi Chouxian and Yi Chu Tianji stood opposite each other on the battle platform. Their eyes met and sparks of electricity shot out. Yi Chouxian, you actually possess a 12-star battle prowess. This has truly exceeded my expectations. This is also the fortune of my heavenly human tribe. My heavenly human tribe will become more and more powerful. Yi Chu Tianji's voice reverberated in all directions. However, his tone suddenly changed as he said, "However, even if we are of the same level, there is still a difference in strength. You are no match for me, so it's better for you to admit defeat so that you don't consume too much energy." "I don't agree with you at all," Yi Chouxian said indifferently. "You don't agree? What do you disagree with?" Yi Chu Tianji said. "I don't think you're my match," Yi Chouxian said very seriously with a faint smile on his face. "Yi Chouxian, you're very confident," Yi Chu Tianji said coldly. His gaze was a little cold as he stared at Yi Chouxian like a sharp sword. However, Yi Chouxian was not afraid at all as he looked back at Yi Chu Tianji. This made Yi Chu Tianji very unhappy. He had some impression of Yi Chouxian. In his impression, Yi Chouxian was just an ordinary sky pride of the heavenly human tribe. He was the strongest son of heaven. An ordinary sky pride of the heavenly human tribe was no different from trash in his eyes. However, the trash in his eyes was now standing in front of him confidently as his opponent and even said that he was no match for him. This was outrageous. Yi Chu Tianji's anger continued to spread. I hope you have the right to be confident, Yi Chu Tianji said coldly as a powerful aura erupted from his body. 3 types of energy erupted from his body: heavenly punishment, and heavenly annihilation. The 3 types of powerful heavenly energy whizzed around him and condensed into 3 different beasts. As soon as he attacked, Yi Chu Tianji pushed his combat strength to the peak. However, at the same time, a powerful aura erupted from Yi Chouxian's body as well as 3 types of energy erupted. They were also 3 types of heavenly energy: heavenly punishment, and heavenly wrath. Unlike Yi Chu Tianji, there was one type of heavenly energy that was different. At the same time, the form of the condensation was also different. Yi Chouxian's 3 types of heavenly energy condensed into 3 battle swords. The battle swords vibrated and sword chi surged into the sky. Kill. Fight. The 2 of them shouted at the same time as their bodies turned into phantoms and charged at each other. The heavenly energy also blasted at each other. A great battle between the 2 of them had erupted. Boom. 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 Shocking explosions rang out as the terrifying power caused the battle platform to shake continuously. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Although the 2 of them had mastered 3 types of heavenly energy, the way they used them was very different. The way they attacked was also very different. Yi Chu Tianji used the heavenly energy to transform into a ferocious beast that roared like thunder. On the other hand, Yi Chouxian used the heavenly energy to form a sword that could move mountains and rivers. They had different forms, but their power was equally shocking. Soon, the 2 of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. At this time, Yi Chouxian actually started to gain the upper hand. That was because Yi Chouxian's attack power was stronger. The 3 battle swords worked together seamlessly as if they could split the entire universe apart. Yi Chu Tianji felt immense pressure and started to retreat. Damn it! Yi Chu Tianji roared in his heart as his eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. He really wanted to kill Yi Chouxian. Because once he was defeated by Yi Chouxian, he was destined to lose the right to compete for first place. Without a doubt, if he wanted to obtain first place, he had to win all of his battles. Once he lost, it would mean that his battle power was inferior to someone else's. If someone was stronger than him, it would be impossible for him to obtain first place. And his goal was to obtain first place. But now, he was being suppressed by Yi Chouxian. He really wanted to use his status as the Son of Heaven to suppress Yi Chouxian and make him admit defeat. But he knew that it was useless. Although Yi Chouxian was not the Son of Heaven yet, he could predict that after this matter was over, Yi Chouxian would definitely be promoted to the Son of Heaven. Using his status as the Son of Heaven to suppress Yi Chouxian was clearly not going to work. Yi Chu Tianji could only push his strength to the limit, hoping to find Yi Chouxian's weakness and win in one fell swoop. But he was thinking too much. The more Yi Chouxian fought, the braver and stronger he became. He suppressed Yi Chu Tianji until he was forced to retreat. How could he find Yi Chouxian's weakness? Even if he found Yi Chouxian's weakness, he did not have the strength to launch a counterattack. Finally, after dozens of blows, Yi Chu Tianji was sent flying out of the fighting stage. End of chapter. Chapter 44-21. Yi Chu Tianji was sent flying out of the arena, defeated by Yi Chouxian. D***. Yi Chu Tianji roared, his heart was filled with anger and unwillingness. The spectators were also in an uproar. Yi Chouxian had defeated Yi Chu Tianji, making the originally simple and confusing battle situation clearer. Originally, it was hard for outsiders to determine who was stronger among the 7 exceptional talents with 12-star fighting power. It was really hard to determine who was stronger without having fought with someone of the same star level. Anything could happen. Now, there was finally some progress. Yi Chouxian's fighting power was obviously stronger than Yi Chu Tianji's. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye had always been on par. This meant that Yi Ling Hongye wasn't Yi Chouxian's match either. Obviously, Yi Chouxian's ability was stronger. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Wan Shen, and Dark Knight Rose, could they be Yi Chouxian's match? Although they hadn't fought, everyone's heart started to lean towards Yi Chouxian. They felt that Yi Chouxian had a higher chance of winning. After Yi Chouxian defeated Yi Chu Tianji, the competition continued. Now, everyone had their own goal in mind. 7 beings with 12-star fighting power would enter the top 14 without any suspense. They were competing for the top 4. As for those with 11-star fighting power, they only had one goal, which was to enter the top 14 and step into the third tier, which would allow them to better connect to Universe C. Hence, once they met someone with 12-star fighting power, they would almost always admit defeat. Only when they met someone of the same star-level fighting power would they fight with all their might. During this period, there were many exciting battles. For example, Di Jenny vs Ling Heng. It was a peak battle between swords with 11-star fighting power. Both of them were the elites of the elites. Ling Heng was the spirit of fire in the spirit tribe. He controlled 2 origin ancient words, fire and wind. They complemented each other seamlessly and their power multiplied. However, Di Jenny wasn't weak either. Although Di Jenny only controlled 1 origin ancient word, the origin ancient word was the word sword. However, Emperor Jenny's talent in sword principle was too high. After he had the word sword, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. He did not need any other origin ancient characters. One was enough. He unleashed the might of his way of the sword to its limits. After exchanging a few hundred blows with Ling Heng, he actually managed to defeat him with a slight advantage. There was also a top-level battle between Autumn Moon and a Son of Heaven. This Son of Heaven was one of the 3 that was deemed to be most likely to enter the top 14. His battle prowess was a level higher than Chu Chenyue's. Autumn Moon went through a difficult battle. The 9 Orifices' Sacred Heart was pushed to the extreme by Autumn Moon. In the end, he defeated his opponent with a slight advantage. The peak showdown between 11 stars of battle prowess also caused the spectators to cry out in satisfaction. After all, in the past, 11 stars of battle prowess represented the peak, and 12 stars of battle prowess were extremely rare. In most eras, it was hard to find a monstrous genius with a 12-star battle prowess. In this round, Lu Ming met an old acquaintance. Yin Zhouling. Yin Zhouling was shrouded in an evil aura. His body was illusory, which was very strange. His aura was many times more terrifying than before. His eyes were cold, and his evil aura was soaring. However, Lu Ming was no longer the Lu Ming of the past. Although Yin Zhouling was much stronger than before, Lu Ming had made more progress than Yin Zhouling. No matter how strong Yin Zhouling was, he only had 11 stars of battle prowess. Yin Zhouling, do you want to admit defeat? Lu Ming said lightly. The last time he saw Yin Zhouling, he joined forces with the battle god Yuan Wen to fight against him. But now, Lu Ming did not put Yin Zhouling in his eyes. Yin Zhouling's eyes flashed coldly, as if he was thinking about whether there was a way to defeat Lu Ming. If you don't admit defeat, then I will make a move, Lu Ming said. He took a step forward and rushed towards Yin Zhouling like a lightning bolt, striking down with his palm. The forbidden power was activated, and a brilliant light burst out. The terrifying power suppressed Yin Zhouling. Yin Zhouling's pupils contracted sharply, and the evil aura around his body quickly became dense. With a bang, Yin Zhouling's body exploded, turning into several evil auras, and retreated rapidly. However, Lu Ming's power was too strong. Under the suppression of the violent power, the sinister aura kept exploding, being annihilated, and being distorted. Rumble. After a series of explosions, the evil aura weakened a lot, and Yin Zhouling's body was recondensed. However, Yin Zhouling's face was even paler, and his aura was much weaker than before. He was seriously injured in one move. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward again and rushed towards Lu Ming and Yin Zhouling. Yin Zhouling's body exploded again. This time, he turned into dozens of evil auras, which were scattered all over the fighting ring. The temperature of the entire fighting ring dropped sharply, and it was shrouded by the evil aura. He just wanted to use this move to consume Lu Ming's power, and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. However, would this move work on Lu Ming? The answer was obvious. Boom! Lu Ming slapped the middle of the fighting ring, and countless tiny spear lights rushed out in all directions from his palm. Every space in the fighting ring was shrouded in it. The core of these spear lights was the forbidden power. The forbidden power was so powerful that even if Yin Jiuling turned into evil aura, he could still be hit and seriously injured. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The dense spear lights pierced through the evil aura, and Yin Jiuling screamed in the evil aura. Dozens of evil auras exploded one after another, and in the end, only 7 or 8 of them were still flying around. Boom! Lu Ming dashed over and pressed down with his big hands. More than 10 powerful forces suppressed the 7 to 8 wisps of sinister aura. I admit, in the evil aura, Yin Jiuling's shrill and panicked scream came out. However, before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. Because all the evil aura on the field was annihilated by Lu Ming's powerful force. Yin Jiuling was directly killed by Lu Ming. The next moment, Yin Jiuling was resurrected on the lotus, looking at Lu Ming with horror on his face. He originally wanted to test Lu Ming's strength, which was secretly instructed by Dark Knight Rose. He didn't expect that he would be killed by Lu Ming after just a few moves. In addition, those with 11-star battle strength were horrified and secretly decided not to fight with a 12-star battle strength. Yin Jiuling was not weak among those with 11-star battle strength. His evil aura was very difficult to deal with, but in the face of Lu Ming, he had no power to fight back. Although he was restrained by the forbidden power, it was enough to prove that a 12-star battle strength was really terrifying. End of this chapter. Chapter 44-22. From the 8th round onwards, the number of battles between the 12-star combatants increased. Not long after the 8th round began, a battle broke out. Dark Knight Rose vs Yi Ling Hongye. The battle between the two peerless beauties broke out immediately. True to her name, Yi Ling Hongye also controlled 3 types of heavenly powers. She used the 3 types of heavenly powers to transform into red leaves that filled the sky. These red leaves were extremely sharp and comparable to divine weapons. At the same time, they were ever-changing and could form all kinds of attacks. Sometimes, they would form all kinds of beasts, and other times, they would transform into various divine weapons. She could even create a red leaf domain. She could stand in the red leaf domain and control a part of the world. She possessed great power. As for Dark Knight Rose, she held a strange flower in her hand. The flower was dark gold in color. When the petals opened, dark gold light constantly flew out. The light was extremely terrifying and contained a deadly poison. At first, Yi Ling Hongye didn't care, because at their level and combat strength, they were basically immune to all kinds of poisons. Especially since she controlled 3 types of heavenly powers. She could refine any kind of poison, so she was very confident. However, when the two exchanged hundreds of blows, Yi Ling Hongye's expression changed. She felt the poison enter her body and continuously devour the 3 types of heavenly powers in her body. This shocked Yi Ling Hongye greatly. Her face was filled with horror. What kind of power is this? How can it devour my heavenly powers? Yi Ling Hongye exclaimed. She was extremely shocked. The 4 types of heavenly powers of the heavenly human tribe were almost the strongest forces in the universe. Only a small number of forces could compete with the heavenly powers. The power of each type of heavenly powers was extremely terrifying when cultivated to the great accomplishment level. But now, there was a poison that could devour the 3 types of heavenly powers at the same time. That was terrifying. What kind of poison was this? How could there be such a poison in the universe? Why hadn't she heard of it? Could it be that flower, the Sky Devourer Rose? Among the spectators, an elderly celestial venerate seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed in surprise. His aged face revealed a trace of shock. What? The Sky Devourer Rose? The expressions of the other heavenly venerables and some divine master heavenly humans also changed drastically. In the surroundings, those who had never heard of the heaven-devouring rose were even more shocked. Even an Empyrean-level character let out a cry of surprise. Just what was the origin of this heaven-devouring rose that it was so shocking? Many people were curious. However, those important figures of the heavenly human clan didn't want to explain. They just stared at Dark Knight Rose. They wanted to see her clearly so that they could discuss among themselves. It can't really be the heaven-devouring rose, right? In the battle back then, didn't the heaven-devouring wild rose vanish into thin air, turned into scattered ashes? That's right. Back then, I personally saw the heaven-devouring wild rose being killed. Could it be the power of reincarnation? The power of reincarnation. You're saying that the heaven-devouring rose had already peered into reincarnation back then? That's impossible. If she had already reached such a level, how could she have been killed by us? I'm not sure. This is really strange. And that woman called Xian Yanqing. Her temperament is very similar to one of the daughters of the Tang family. That's even more impossible. The two daughters of the Tang family also died back then. I heard that Xian Yanqing seems to be Fei Huang's disciple. That Tang Qing was also Fei Huang's disciple. It's normal for their temperament to be similar. The higher-ups of the heavenly human clan discussed secretly. They transmitted their voices so that others couldn't hear them. The heaven-devouring wild rose. Could it be her? On a lotus near Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing's body trembled slightly. She whispered and was heard by Lu Ming. Little Qing, you know about the heaven-devouring wild rose? Lu Ming transmitted his voice and asked. Of course I know. I once subdued a plant life as a pet in my previous life. That was the heaven-devouring wild rose. Back then, she died together with my previous life. Could it be that she also reincarnated? Xian Yanqing replied. What? It's actually your pet in your previous life? Lu Ming was shocked. I'm not sure, but it's very likely. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I saw her. In my memory, there's only one heaven-devouring wild rose in the entire Eldritch universe. There's no other. Xian Yanqing said. Perhaps, your feeling is right. This is the one from back then. Since she's your pet, did she die together with you? Lu Ming asked. Yes, the heaven-devouring wild rose died together with me back then, Xian Yanqing said. That's right. You've reincarnated and she's also reincarnated by chance. She obviously recognized you, so she was so shocked when she saw you. Lu Ming said. He recalled the expression of Dark Knight Rose when she saw Xian Yanqing and became more certain. Lu Ming really didn't expect Dark Knight Rose to have such a dispute with Xian Yanqing. Things in the world were really strange. However, many of Lu Ming's doubts were answered. Dark Knight Rose always gave people a mysterious feeling. It turned out that the other party was a person who had reincarnated. In his previous life, his cultivation was extremely high and his background was great. That was why he was so unfathomable and had unparalleled means. He was able to win over a large number of geniuses and use them for his own purposes. The battle in the fighting ring continued. However, Yi Ling Hongye was on the verge of death. As the three supreme heavenly powers in her body were continuously devoured by Dark Knight Rose's poison, her strength was getting weaker and weaker. Dark Knight Rose's attacks were steady. Thus, Yi Ling Hongye was no match for Dark Knight Rose. In the end, Yi Ling Hongye coughed up blood and retreated out of the fighting ring. Dark Knight Rose won the battle. In this way, the two strongest heavenly daughters of the heavenly human tribe, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye, were defeated. One was defeated by another dark horse of the heavenly human tribe, and the other was defeated by Dark Knight Rose. This made the faces of the heavenly human tribe turn ugly. Losing to Yi Chouxian was one thing, but losing to Dark Knight Rose was something that made him feel displeased. He felt like he had lost face. After Dark Knight Rose defeated Yi Ling Hongye, the crowd's speculations about the rankings changed again. Previously, everyone thought that Yi Chouxian was the most likely contender for first place. However, they changed their minds now. Dark Knight Rose defeated Yi Ling Hongye. Her poison could devour supreme heavenly powers, which was equivalent to restraining the power of the heavenly human tribe. Although Yi Chouxian was stronger than Yi Chu Tianji, the power that he controlled was also the strongest heavenly energy. Wouldn't that mean that he would be restrained as well? Chapter 44-23. Since Dark Knight Rose could counter the strongest heavenly powers, wouldn't that mean that Dark Knight Rose's chances of getting first place were even higher? In everyone's hearts, Dark Knight Rose's chances of getting first place had greatly increased. But now, no one dared to be completely sure. This was because Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Wan Shen had not truly fought against anyone with a 12-star battle prowess. They had not truly fought with their full strength. Although Xian Yanqing and Wan Shen had met Lu Ming, they had admitted defeat immediately. The outcome of the battle was very unpredictable and confusing. Who knew the specific battle prowess of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Wan Shen? However, everyone's curiosity was quickly verified. This was because in the 8th round, after the battle between Dark Knight Rose and Yiling Hongye, another important battle was about to take place. Wan Shen against Yi Chu Tianji. It's finally my turn, heavenly human tribe, hey. Wan Shen licked his lips, his eyes revealing a sinister look as he stepped forward and arrived on the battle stage. Yi Chu Tianji also arrived on the battle stage. You are a pure-blooded primordial divine spirit. I'm really curious. How can a pure-blooded primordial divine spirit be born in this era? Yi Chu Tianji said. He had already walked out of the disappointment of being defeated by Yi Chouxian and had readjusted his state, regaining his strong battle intent. You have no right to know. Wan Shen said indifferently. I have no right. Ha ha ha, primordial divine spirits are as proud as the rumors say. But you have forgotten one thing. In front of my heavenly human tribe, primordial divine spirits are defeated. Even at their peak, primordial divine spirits were slaughtered by my heavenly human tribe. Even if there were a few fish that escaped the net, they would not be able to cause any trouble. Today, I will once again prove that primordial divine spirits are nothing in front of my heavenly human tribe. Yi Chu Tianji sneered, deliberately provoking Wan Shen. At the same time, he exuded a powerful aura. 3 types of supreme heavenly powers condensed into 3 ferocious beasts that charged toward Wan Shen. Tempage, watch me break your absolute heavenly power, Wan Shen coldly shouted. It was as if a volcano that had been hidden for countless years had erupted within his body. A terrifying aura surged out as his muscles bulged and his body grew taller. At the same time, a spear appeared in his right hand and a sword in his left. Above his head and around his body, dozens of rays of light appeared. All of them were origin source secret techniques, and there were more than 30 of them. Roar. An angry roar came from the Sovereign's Gate. A primitive god spirit rushed out and charged at one of Yi Chu Tianji's beasts. The other origin source secret techniques also blasted towards Yi Chu Tianji. His body charged towards Yi Chu Tianji. The spear and sword in his hands were also aimed at Yi Chu Tianji. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying rumbling sounds erupted as thousands of shockwaves swept out in all directions. The 2 of them engaged in an intense battle. Although Yi Chu Tianji's 3 ultimate heavenly powers were mighty and invincible, ordinary divine powers were nothing in front of them. However, what Wan Shen controlled was not ordinary divine powers. The divine powers in his body were extremely pure and vigorous. They were the most primitive divine powers and were not any weaker than absolute heavenly power. Coupled with dozens of origin source secret techniques, the power was astonishing. His attacks were like a storm, constantly smashing towards Yi Chu Tianji. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Around them, the other spectators were all dumbfounded and dazzled. They were especially shocked and impressed by Wan Shen's various origin source secret techniques. One had to know that apart from the heavenly human race, most of the people present cultivated various divine powers. They were of the same origin as Wan Shen, but compared to Wan Shen, they were trash in all aspects. Wan Shen was the ancestor of divine powers. Soon, the 2 of them exchanged dozens of blows. At this time, Yi Chu Tianji's face was getting gloomier and gloomier because he felt an immense pressure. The myriad gods were like primordial beasts that never knew fatigue. Their strength was limitless, and their attacks were like a tidal wave that never stopped. Under such ferocious attacks, Yi Chu Tianji was already beginning to feel the strain. If this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. Ah! Yi Chu Tianji roared and pushed the 3 ultimate heavenly powers to the limit, wanting to counterattack and seize the initiative. Why are you shouting so loudly? You've already lost. It's useless no matter how loud you shout. Shen sneered. His long hair danced in the wind as his burly body stepped forward. His skin turned bronze as he charged into Yi Chu Tianji's attacks like an invincible war god. Bam! A ferocious beast formed from the power of the utmost heavens struck the myriad gods. This ferocious beast was formed from the power of heavenly punishment. Immediately, the myriad god's body was covered in pure white lightning. However, Shen's body only trembled a little before he continued to step forward as if nothing had happened. The spear in his right hand stabbed out like lightning. Fart! Yechu Tianji was stabbed, and a hole appeared in his body. The berserk power forced Yechu Tianji to retreat. Die! Shen smiled savagely like a demon god. He stepped forward, causing the battle stage to shake. His burly body continued to charge at Yi Chu Tianji. Damn it! Yi Chu Tianji roared, his body flickering as he charged to the side. That move had severely injured him and weakened his battle strength. He no longer dared to face Shen head-on. He wanted to use a roundabout method to stall Shen and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. However, he had made the wrong decision. Shen had dozens of origin source secret techniques. They were of all types and had almost no shortcomings. Ding-ling-ling, the sound of a bell resounded throughout the battle stage, spreading out and attacking the soul. A huge net, like an inescapable net, covered the sky, wanting to trap Yi Chu Tianji inside. At the same time, a pair of wings appeared on Shen's back. They looked like a roc or a phoenix. With a flap, his burly body charged out like a phantom. Yi Chu Tianji could not dodge or escape from Shen's pursuit. As the two sides closed the distance, Shen's attacks were like a storm that pressed down on Yi Chu Tianji. Boom! 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 Yi Chu Tianji barely managed to block a few moves before he coughed up blood and flew out of the battle stage. However, Shen did not want his opponent to be defeated so easily. He flapped his wings and chased after Yi Chu Tianji. The spear in his right hand stabbed at Yi Chu Tianji's forehead while the battle sword in his left hand slashed at Yi Chu Tianji's waist. He wanted to kill Yi Chu Tianji. In the previous battles between 12-star battle strength, he had only defeated Yi Chu Tianji. If he could kill Yi Chu Tianji, it would be a huge blow to his opponent. Don't even think about it. Yi Chu Tianji roared. The three types of heavenly strength turned into a shield in front of him, while his body madly rushed out of the battle stage. Chapter 44-24. Shen's attacks landed on Yi Chu Tianji's shield, causing it to explode. However, Yi Chu Tianji managed to gain a brief window of opportunity to rush out of the battle stage. Although the battle stage wasn't small, for an expert like Yi Chu Tianji, it would only take him a short moment to rush out of the battle stage if he went all out. If it wasn't for the huge difference in combat power, it would have been very difficult to kill him. However, Yechu Tianji's escape from the fighting ring meant that he had lost. What a pity, Shen muttered. He was very unhappy that he couldn't kill Yechu Tianji on the fighting ring as he wished. Of course, Yechu Tianji was even more unhappy. He had lost again. He had already lost twice in a row in a battle between 12-star combatants. If this continued, he wouldn't even have a chance to get into the top 4, let alone compete for first place. He made him furious and impatient. Yechu Tianji lost again. He has lost twice in a row. It seems that Yechu Tianji's strength is at the bottom among the 7 12-star combatant. I heard that Yechu Tianji and Yechu Hongya's strength are about the same. I'm afraid the two of them won't be able to get into the top 4. Now, only Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming haven't fought with someone of the same level. I wonder how strong they are. If they are weaker than Yechu Tianji, they might still have a chance. If they are stronger than Yechu Tianji, then Yechu Tianji and Yechu Hongya won't have a chance. If that's the case, the 9 heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe will be completely wiped out. The surrounding people discussed animatedly. This made the faces of the heavenly human tribe very ugly, including the heavenly venerables and the Lord of Heaven. Indeed, The results of the 9 heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe could be said to be terrible. It was possible that none of them would be able to get into the top 4. This was a great humiliation for the heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe. This was because the heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe were synonymous with invincibility. It was easy for them to suppress the other prodigies of the universe. Now, the strongest heavenly children of the heavenly human tribe were losing consecutively. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Choshen had appeared out of nowhere and managed to save some face for the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly human tribe would have been utterly humiliated. The Lord of Heaven's celestial exalt's expressions were grim as their bodies constantly emitted powerful pressure, making it difficult for many people to breathe. Looks of terror appeared on their faces. The myriad god did not mind at all. He laughed and returned to the lotus. Congratulations, myriad god. Lu Ming smiled and congratulated him. It's a pity that we can't kill him on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, I'll leave this important task to you. Myriad god sighed, a look of pity on his face. Don't worry, unless he admits defeat, I'll definitely kill him, Lu Ming said. He deliberately raised his voice so that everyone could hear him. This was a blatant provocation. The purpose was to make it difficult for Yi Chu Tianji to admit defeat when he met Lu Ming later. Damn it, despicable B****, I'll tear you apart. Yi Chu Tianji growled in his heart as he stared at Lu Ming with a murderous look. He wished he could tear Lu Ming apart. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, you said it so loudly. If he hears it, I'm afraid he'll just admit defeat. The myriad god laughed and continued to provoke Yi Chu Tianji. At this moment, the next round of the competition continued. However, the following rounds were all battles between 11-star combat strength. Although they were equally exciting, the crowd was no longer interested in them. What they wanted to see was a battle between 12-star combat strength. They wanted to see who would be able to stand out from the crowd, seize the first place, and truly suppress an era. In this round, Lu Ming's opponent was an 11-star combat strength existence, Di Jenny. Di Jenny's eyes opened and closed, revealing a strong battle intent. The battle sword in his hand kept trembling, but in the end, he did not attack and chose to admit defeat. He knew about Yin Zhouling's strength. Since Lu Ming could easily kill Yin Zhouling, he knew that he was definitely not Lu Ming's match. Lu Ming, it's nothing to be ahead temporarily. Sooner or later, I will catch up with you and even surpass you. After Di Jenny admitted defeat, he secretly sent a message to Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly and was not bothered. After a while, the 8th round of the competition ended. After the 8th round of the competition ended, the 9th round of the competition began. In the 9th round, it was still the same as before. Although the battle between 11-star combat strength was exciting, it did not attract the crowd's attention. Most of the people's attention was on the battle between 12-star combat strength. In the 5th round of the 9th round, there was finally another battle between 12-star combat strength. Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose. Two exceptional ladies stood opposite each other. Sky-devouring Rose, long time no see. Xian Yanqing spoke faintly and sent a message to Dark Knight Rose's ears. She stared at Dark Knight Rose without blinking. Dark Knight Rose's pupils shrank abruptly. She did not know why, but there was a tinge of fear in her eyes. However, it disappeared in a flash. I never thought that there would be a day when we would meet again, Dark Knight Rose replied with a voice transmission. Surrender and continue to rely on me. You should know my character. I will not mistreat you, Xian Yanqing said. Impossible. Dark Knight Rose shook her head and said coldly, back then, I signed a contract with you to be your pet. Now that you and I have reincarnated, the effect of the contract has long disappeared. You can forget about controlling me. Back then, I never thought of controlling you. I have always treated you like a sister. However, your ambition has never disappeared. Instead, it is getting bigger and bigger, Xian Yanqing said. I am the sky-devouring Rose. I am unique in the universe. My talent is peerless. No one can control me. On the contrary, I should be the one controlling the universe. What is the heavenly human race? What is the human race? Only I, who is unique, am the noblest creature in the universe. As Dark Knight Rose spoke, the madness in her eyes became more and more intense. They seemed to know each other. What are they talking about? The surrounding people were curious. Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose were communicating with each other through voice transmission. The surrounding people could not hear them, but they could see that the two of them were communicating. They were very curious. The few heavenly venerables of the heavenly human race looked at each other as if they had thought of something. Their eyes were filled with light. It seems that you want to fight with me. Are you sure you are my opponent? Xian Yanqing said coldly. The demonic qi around his body almost turned into stone. Many black lotus flowers appeared. Dark Knight Rose's eyes flickered a few times. She seemed to be hesitating and struggling. However, in less than a breath, Dark Knight Rose made a decision. She smiled sweetly and said, "Everyone has their own ambitions. However, it is not necessarily impossible for us to work together. There is no need to harm the harmony between us. I will let you win this battle." After saying that, Dark Knight Rose floated back and returned to the lotus flower. Chapter 44-25. Dark Knight Rose returned to the lotus and admitted defeat. Xian Yanqing did not pursue and allowed Dark Knight Rose to leave the fighting ring. In this world, no one knew better than her how terrifying the heaven-devouring Wild Rose was. Although she had the means to counter the Dark Knight Rose, if she really wanted to fight, even if she could win, it wouldn't be that easy. She would have to go through a bitter battle. Xian Yanqing won the battle and many people were disappointed. After all, Xian Yanqing had not fought with a 12-star battle strength until now. He was still mysterious and gave off an unfathomable feeling. In this way, it would be difficult to speculate who was stronger and who was weaker among the 7 existences with 12-star battle prowess. After Xian Yanqing and Dark Knight Rose, there were a few more 11-star battles. When the 8th battle of the 9th round began, there was finally another heavyweight battle. Yi Chouxian vs Yi Ling Hongye. It was another battle between the heavenly human tribe. Facing Yi Chouxian, Yi Ling Hongye's face was solemn. However, it was impossible for her to admit defeat. Her strength was similar to Yi Chu Tianji's. Yi Chu Tianji had lost to Yi Chouxian, but it did not mean that she would lose. There were some people who could restrain each other. Moreover, the difference in strength between them was not that big. She might have a chance of winning. Unfortunately, Yi Ling Hongye was disappointed as soon as they exchanged blows. Yi Chouxian's battle strength was above her expectations. They did not exchange many blows and Yi Ling Hongye was already at a disadvantage. After about 100 blows, Yi Ling Hongye coughed out blood and retreated. She was severely injured. Yi Chouxian won the battle without any suspense. Yi Chouxian's strength is really strong. He should have reached the limit of 12-star battle strength. Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye should only have average 12-star battle strength. That's right. Among the 7 of them, I still think that Yi Chouxian has the highest chance of winning. However, Dark Knight Rose and Wan Shen have defeated Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye respectively. Their chances are also very high. Don't forget that the Dark Knight Rose can restrain the ultimate heavenly energy. Yi Chouxian might not be a match for the Dark Knight Rose. However, the Dark Knight Rose admitted defeat in front of Xian Yanqing. This battle, everyone was discussing and analyzing, but the more they analyzed, the more complicated the situation became. From the looks of it, Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye were not very competitive, but the same could not be said for the others. Even though Yi Chouxian's battle prowess seemed to be unparalleled, the venom of the Dark Knight Rose was able to devour the utmost heaven's powers. If they were to fight, it was hard to say who would win. However, Dark Knight Rose seemed to be extremely wary of Xian Yanqing. She directly admitted defeat against Xian Yanqing. And Xian Yanqing admitted defeat in front of Lu Ming. As a result, the battle situation became complicated. Even heavenly venerates would find it difficult to determine who would emerge victorious. After the battle between Yi Chouxian and Yi Ling Hongye, there was nothing worth paying attention to in the 9th round. Lu Ming did not encounter any strong opponents in this round and easily defeated them. Soon, the 10th round began. In the 10th round, Lu Ming finally met a decent opponent. Yi Chu Tianji. In the third match of the 10th round, Lu Ming met Yi Chu Tianji. It has finally begun. Lu Ming, the forbidden body, has finally met a strong opponent. This match is very important. If Lu Ming can defeat Yi Chu Tianji, it will prove that he has the qualifications to compete for first place. If he is not a match for Yi Chu Tianji, or if they can only fight to a draw, then he will not have the qualifications to compete for first place, even if Wan Shen and Xian Yanqing admit defeat in front of him. That's right. Let's see if Lu Ming can defeat Yi Chu Tianji, everyone was discussing. When Yi Chu Tianji heard this, he almost vomited blood. What was the meaning of this? This was clearly using him to measure the strength of others. He had become a stepping stone for others. Only by stepping over him would they have the qualifications to compete for first place. He was the strongest son of heaven. Before entering the Taishang Immortal City, he only had one opponent, Yi Ling Hongye, who was able to suppress an era. Who would have thought that he would become a stepping stone for others to measure their strength? Humiliation, endless humiliation. Lu Ming, I must defeat him. Yi Chu Tianji roared. He needed to win a match, and it would be best if he could defeat Lu Ming. Lu Ming had the forbidden body. The name of the forbidden body had shaken the universe for eons. Only by defeating Lu Ming could he wash away the humiliation on him. Yi Chu Tianji, I'll give you a chance. Admit defeat, lest I have to take action. Lu Ming said calmly with a mocking look on his face. Don't even think about it. Yi Chu Tianji's eyes were filled with anger. The aura on his body erupted like a volcano. Roar, roar, roar. 3 types of heaven's force condensed into 3 ferocious beasts. They let out earth-shattering roars and pounced towards Lu Ming. The 3 ferocious beasts were as big as mountains. One of them was formed by heaven's punishment energy. Dense lightning could be seen on its body. Every time it struck, endless lightning would strike out. Its power was terrifying. An 11-star battle power of the same cultivation level would be severely injured in a single strike. The other one was grey and was formed by heaven's extermination energy. The third one was a goshawk. It exuded an extremely sharp aura. It was formed by heaven's punishment energy. The 3 ferocious beasts were as big as mountains. Their violent auras pressed towards Lu Ming crazily. It was as if a few hundred planets were smashing towards Lu Ming. Yi Chu Tianji's battle power was not weak. Even the most ordinary divine master would have to avoid such an attack. Unfortunately, his opponent was even more perverted. Especially Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming activated the battle character art and unleashed his forbidden force. His body soared into the sky and punched out continuously. The fist force left his body and expanded rapidly. It collided with the 3 ferocious beasts. The speed of their attacks was too fast. In just an instant, the 2 sides had exchanged more than 50 blows. Break for me. Lu Ming roared. His aura erupted like a raging tide. His fist force surged and had the power to break through everything. The terrifying power continued to gather and condense. Finally, it exploded with a loud bang. With a loud bang, one of the 3 ferocious beasts formed by Yi Chu Tianji exploded. Yi Chu Tianji's body trembled and he could not help but retreat. As he retreated, Lu Ming's power became even more unrestrained. It was unstoppable. Bam! Bam! The remaining 2 ferocious beasts of Yi Chu Tianji also exploded. The power that Lu Ming had gathered rushed towards Yi Chu Tianji crazily. Yi Chu Tianji's body shook violently. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and his face turned pale. Kill. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning. His killing intent was like a rainbow as he charged towards Yi Chu Tianji with unparalleled power. He had promised Wan Shen that he would kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting stage. Chapter 44-26. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he charged at Yi Chu Tianji with a chilling killing intent. He swore to kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting ring. Yi Chu Tianji's face revealed a trace of fear as he frantically retreated, wanting to leave the battle ring. After the previous exchange, he knew that he was no match for Lu Ming. If he continued to fight, he might be killed by Lu Ming. Therefore, he decided to admit defeat by leaving the fighting ring. You want to leave? Do you think you can? Lu Ming's cold voice rang out as he caught up with Yechu Tianji in an instant. He waved his hand and spear radiance shot toward Yechu Tianji. Block it. Yechu Tianji roared as he used all his strength to attack. He unleashed the 3 supreme heavenly powers to the maximum and formed 3 giant beasts in front of him. As long as he could stop Lu Ming for a few moments, he would be able to fly out of the fighting ring. However, Lu Ming knew what he was thinking. At this moment, light spots lit up all over Lu Ming's body. There were tens of thousands of light spots. Tens of thousands of light spots, each of them incomparably bright, like stars. These were the cells that had been fused with secret skill runes. Lu Ming had activated tens of thousands of secret skills. Countless rays of light filled the air around him. The surrounding spectators all widened their eyes in shock as they witnessed this scene. Oh my God, am I seeing things? These are all secret skills. Yes, they are definitely secret skills. Those that are brighter must be ancient secret skills. Those that are dimmer must be ordinary secret skills. Oh my God, there are more than 1,800 secret skills and tens of thousands of ordinary secret skills. How did he cultivate all of them? How can a person master so many secret skills? Pervert. Countless people exclaimed in disbelief. Ordinary people usually cultivated a few secret skills. It was already good enough if they could cultivate a few secret skills to the greater success level. This was especially true for ancient secret techniques. Not to mention that most of them had already been lost. Even if they still existed, the average person would only cultivate one type of secret technique. They would constantly unearth and comprehend it to develop its might. To be able to cultivate several ancient secret techniques at the same time was already quite impressive, and could be considered a top genius. However, compared to Lu Ming, there was simply a world of difference. The difference was too great. They could not imagine how a person could have so much energy to cultivate so many secret techniques. Even a taboo body would find it difficult to do so. While everyone was still in shock, Lu Ming had already made his move. Great sealing art, great binding art, great cage art, Lu Ming shouted and pushed out with both hands. Various trapping ancient secret techniques were launched at Yechu Tianji. This secret technique swept past the 3 beasts conjured by Yechu Tianji and appeared around him. All of a sudden, countless runes appeared from the great sealing art and silently crawled up Yechu Tianji's body, covering his entire body. These runes intertwined with each other to form a powerful sealing formation that was about to seal Yechu Tianji away. Break for me! Yechu Tianji roared. All kinds of energy burst out of his body in an attempt to break the great sealing art. However, Lu Ming did not just use the great sealing art. The great binding art created thick vines that looked like they were made of metal and wrapped around Yechu Tianji. The great prison technique formed a large prison, trapping Yechu Tianji within. Yechu Tianji was surrounded by all sorts of ancient secret techniques that were used to trap enemies. Yechu Tianji unleashed all his energy in an attempt to break these secret techniques. With his strength, it was not difficult for him to break 1 or 2 secret techniques in an instant. However, it would be difficult for him to break 8 to 10 secret techniques in an instant. What Lu Ming wanted was to trap Yechu Tianji for an instant. This was because Lu Ming had already arrived. Whoosh! Lu Ming formed a long spear with his taboo power and stabbed it at Yechu Tianji's forehead. It was as fast as lightning and as swift as thunder. It was powerful and shocking. Ah! Break! Break! Yechu Tianji roared madly, trying to break open a crack and escape. However, it was too late. Lu Ming's spear light was about to reach him. At this moment, he really did want to admit defeat. However, he hesitated the moment he was about to do so. After all, he had previously declared that he would kill Lu Ming. At that time, he had been so proud, confident, and arrogant. He had thought that he was invincible and that only Yi Ling Hongye could match him in the entire world. At that time, he had not taken Lu Ming seriously. Even if his opponent had a taboo body, he was still confident that he could suppress him. However, not only had he suffered consecutive defeats, but he also had to admit defeat in front of Lu Ming. He could not do it. Because of this hesitation, Lu Ming would not give him a chance. Yi Chu Tianji also lost the chance to admit defeat. Whoosh! The dazzling spear light was faster than lightning and pierced Yi Chu Tianji's forehead. With a puff, Yi Chu Tianji's forehead was directly pierced by the spear light. The terrifying destructive power in the spear light exploded in an instant. Yi Chu Tianji's head exploded, and he died on the spot. This scene caused the scene to fall into silence. Many people revealed looks of shock in their eyes. Yi Chu Tianji had been killed. This was the first time that someone with a 12-star battle strength had been killed on the fighting stage. In the previous battles, even if he was no match for Yi Chu, he could still escape. But now, Yi Chu Tianji, the once invincible son of heaven of the heavenly palace, had been killed by Lu Ming on the fighting stage. This was extremely shocking. Fortunately, he could be resurrected here. If it was outside, Yi Chu Tianji would have been dead. The once strongest son of heaven of the heavenly human tribe would have completely fallen. After Yi Chu Tianji was killed, his corpse turned into streaks of light and flew back to the lotus. In the next moment, Yi Chu Tianji was reformed. Lu Ming. Yi Chu Tianji stared at Lu Ming with hatred in his eyes. Of course, there was also a trace of fear. Although he had been resurrected, it was true that he had been killed by Lu Ming. He had truly felt the smell of death. That feeling made his heart tremble. Unknowingly, he had developed a trace of fear toward Lu Ming. This was instinctive. Ha ha ha, good kill, good, good, the myriad god laughed. Previously, Lu Ming had promised him that he would kill Yi Chu Tianji on the fighting stage. Now, he had done it. The strongest son of heaven is just SOSO. Lu Ming held the spear formed by the forbidden power and pointed it at Yi Chu Tianji. His voice was filled with contempt. Damn it! Yi Chu Tianji roared in his heart. The other members of the heavenly human tribe also roared. They either glared at Lu Ming angrily or stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Chapter 44-27. Lu Ming had killed Yi Chu Tianji on the spot. To the heavenly human tribe, this was a great humiliation. Yi Chu Tianji was known as the strongest son of heaven and was one of the two strongest people in the younger generation of the heavenly human tribe. He represented the heavenly human tribe. Killing Yi Chu Tianji in public was equivalent to slapping the heavenly human tribe in the face. The heavenly human tribe was naturally displeased. Yi Chouxian, you must avenge Yi Chu Tianji. Yi Chouxian, you must kill Lu Ming. Many heavenly human tribe members roared and pinned their hopes on Yi Chouxian. Yi Chouxian was the only one in the heavenly human tribe who could deal with Lu Ming. When Lu Ming killed Yi Chu Tianji, he only displayed 12-star combat strength. He did not reveal his 13-star combat strength. Therefore, everyone thought that Lu Ming only had 12-star combat strength. With the combat strength that Yi Chouxian had displayed, he might be able to deal with Lu Ming. Amidst the hubbub, the competition continued. Next, there were a few battles between 11-star combat strength. After that, the 9th round was over. Soon, the 10th round began. The first battle of the 10th round was a heavyweight battle between 12-star combat strength. Wan Shen vs Xian Yanqing. This, Lu Ming was a little stunned. He did not want to see a battle between Wan Shen and Xian Yanqing. However, according to the rules of the competition, they would meet sooner or later. I hope it won't hurt their friendship. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. However, it was not convenient for him to intervene. One was his best friend and the other was his wife. He did not want to see either of them get hurt. At this time, the surrounding people were also discussing and guessing who was stronger between Wan Shen and Xian Yanqing. Wan Shen had previously defeated Yi Chu Tianji and had already displayed his powerful combat strength. As for Xian Yanqing, he had always been very mysterious. Until now, he had never crossed swords with an existence with 12-star battle prowess. However, when Dark Knight Rose faced Xian Yanqing, she immediately admitted defeat. This made people wonder how strong Xian Yanqing was. They wanted to see Xian Yanqing's strength through this competition. On the battle stage, Wan Shen and Xian Yanqing faced each other. Myriad God looked at Xian Yanqing before looking at Lu Ming. Finally, he shook his head and said, "There's no need to fight this round. I admit defeat." Xian Yanqing was also taken aback. He never expected Myriad Gods to admit defeat so quickly. The surrounding people were also stunned and speechless. He wanted to use this battle to see Xian Yanqing's strength, but he never expected Myriad God to admit defeat again. "I'm friends with Lu Ming and you're Lu Ming's wife. That means we're on the same side. I don't want to fight with my own people. Moreover, you give me the feeling that you're very strong and threatening. Even if we really fight, I don't have the confidence to win. I might as well admit defeat," the Myriad God mumbled before returning to the lotus with a flicker. Xian Yanqing won this battle. The first battle of the 10th round ended in a hurry. They thought there would be an exciting battle, but the result was disappointing. After that, 8 consecutive battles were between 11-star experts or 11-star experts against 12-star experts. It was either not exciting enough or there was no suspense. When it was the 10th battle of the 10th round, the crowd finally began to get excited. This was because this battle was between Yi Qiuxian and Dark Knight Rose. The two top experts finally faced off. Regardless of whether it was Yi Qiuxian or Dark Knight Rose, they were both considered to have the highest chance of obtaining first place. Yi Qiuxian defeated Yi Chu Tianji and Yi Ling Hongye consecutively and became the true number 1 expert of the heavenly human tribe. As for Dark Knight Rose, she was a sky-devouring rose flower. She was extremely strange and the poison she produced could even devour the ultimate power of heaven of the heavenly human tribe. Previously, when she fought Yi Ling Hongye, she devoured Yi Ling Hongye's ultimate power of heaven, causing Yi Ling Hongye to become weaker and weaker. In the end, she was defeated by Dark Knight Rose. This caused the crowd to have a guess. Since Dark Knight Rose's poison could devour Yi Ling Hongye's ultimate power of heaven, could it devour Yi Qiuxian's ultimate power of heaven? In theory, it could. Since it could devour Yi Ling Hongye's poison, it could also devour Yi Qiuxian's poison. However, Yi Qiuxian's strength was stronger and it was hard to say. Therefore, who was stronger between Dark Knight Rose and Yi Qiuxian had always been the focus of the crowd's discussion. Everyone had their own opinions. However, they had to let the facts speak for themselves. Only when the two of them fought would they know who was stronger. Now, they were finally going to face off. After a round of discussion, the crowd quietened down and looked at the fighting ring quietly, waiting for the battle to break out. "Handsome guy from the heavenly human tribe, you are no match for me. Why don't you just admit defeat? We can be friends and get closer in the future." Dark Knight Rose's eyes were like water as she stared at Yi Qiuxian. Her voice was filled with charm. Dark Knight Rose was an outstanding beauty. Whether it was her figure or her appearance, they were the best in the universe. Facing Dark Knight Rose, not many people could resist her temptation. Many of the younger generation around them swallowed their saliva and stared at Dark Knight Rose with their eyes wide open. However, Yi Qiuxian's expression was normal and he was unmoved. "Make your move. Let me see how powerful your poison is," Yi Qiuxian said indifferently. Yi Qiuxian said indifferently. His voice was cold. However, within that cold voice, there was an invincible conviction. How boring and unromantic. "Then don't blame me for being heartless." Before she could finish her sentence, Dark Knight Rose made her move. She shouted softly and pushed her hands forward. Suddenly, rays of dark golden light exploded around Yi Qiuxian. These rays of light immediately enveloped Yi Qiuxian. These rays of light were both an attack and a lethal poison. Bam! Yi Qiuxian made his move. The moment he moved, 3 different types of heaven's powers exploded. The 3 types of heaven's powers formed 3 different colored battle swords and slashed out. The sword chi whistled and pierced through the dark golden light. Yi Qiuxian's body rushed out and charged towards Dark Knight Rose at an astonishing speed. The sword chi whistled and hundreds of sword lights slashed towards Dark Knight Rose. Dark Knight Rose's face was solemn. A huge rose appeared in her hand. The rose was dark golden. When the petals opened, the center of the petals was like a strange black hole. It was like a bottomless abyss that was filled with terror. From the black hole, dark golden light rushed out continuously and densely towards Yi Qiuxian. Boom! 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 Both of their attacks collided and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. The three-colored sword light and the dark golden light collided continuously. The entire fighting ring was covered by various kinds of light. The speed was too fast. In an instant, both of them had exchanged more than 100 moves. However, there was still no clear winner. End of chapter. Chapter 44-28. Kill. Yi Qiuxian roared as he controlled the three swords to launch a fierce attack. The sword chi was like a torrential wave that swept towards Dark Knight Rose. The attack was extremely terrifying. It was as though anything that stood in its way would be destroyed mercilessly. The petite Dark Knight Rose looked as though she would be torn into pieces by the boundless sword chi at any time. However, the Dark Knight Rose was as steady as a mountain. The rose in her hand seemed to be emitting boundless dark golden light. It was bursting forth unceasingly, blocking Yi Qiuxian's tide-like sword aura. If this goes on, Yi Qiuxian will be in danger, someone sighed, winning the approval of the others. Especially those from the heavenly human tribe. Their faces were solemn. Previously, when Dark Knight Rose and Yi Ling Hongye fought, they were in the same state. In the beginning, they were evenly matched. However, later on, Yi Ling Hongye was poisoned by Dark Knight Rose's poison and the poison started to devour her ultimate heaven energy. Yi Ling Hongye became weaker and weaker and was defeated by Dark Knight Rose in the end. The current situation was exactly the same as before. It was obvious that Dark Knight Rose wanted to use the same method to defeat Yi Qiuxian. The longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for Yi Qiuxian. If Yi Qiuxian was defeated, the heavenly human tribe would suffer a crushing defeat. When the news spread across the universe, the heavenly human tribe's reputation would suffer a great blow. Yi Qiuxian had obviously thought of this too. Triple demise sword formation, kill, Yi Qiuxian shouted as his heavenly energy exploded. The three swords that were formed by the ultimate heaven energy quickly grew in size and stood tall between the heavens and earth. The three swords formed a strange pattern and formed a sword formation. Boom! 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 The heavens and earth shook and the battle stage shook violently. The sword formation formed a gigantic sword light that fell from the sky and pierced towards Dark Knight Rose's head. Terrifying. It was truly terrifying. The power of this move was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the sword chi wave from before. It was obvious that Yi Qiuxian had not used his full strength previously. He had not used his killer move and had only used a normal attack. At this moment, the sword formation was the true killing move. Its power was simply too shocking. The gigantic sword light gave off a strong pressure. Ordinary emperor gods would not be able to block such a sword light. Their minds would have collapsed before they even came into contact with it. Of course, it did not mean that the power of this move had surpassed the 12-star level and reached the 13-star level. Not at all. The further one's cultivation level, the harder it was to raise one's level. Once one's cultivation level, it would be extremely difficult to raise one's cultivation level. But without a doubt, this move had definitely reached the limit of a 12-star battle prowess. Dark Knight Rose will be defeated. Dark Knight Rose will be defeated. Yi Qiuxian is truly astonishing. Even at a time like this, he actually still has a trump card up his sleeve. Once he unleashes his trump card, he will be able to defeat the Dark Knight Rose as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. With that, her poison will be rendered ineffective. Facing this sword, many people cried out in surprise. As for Dark Knight Rose herself, her expression was solemn. Sky, sky, sky Rose. Dark Knight Rose yelled. Her body emitted a dark golden light. Her body was shrouded in the light. In the next moment, the light disappeared, and the Dark Knight Rose's body also disappeared. What replaced it was an incomparably huge rose. That rose was over 300 meters tall. Furthermore, It was growing at an astonishing speed. It appeared to be exactly the same as the rose that Dark Knight Rose held in her hand earlier. However, its aura was much more terrifying. That was Dark Knight Rose's real body. The real sky-devouring rose. Boom! The huge sword light pierced the heaven-devouring rose, exploding with a shocking boom. Then, the sword light vibrated and collapsed. As for the heaven-devouring rose, it shook violently and retreated. However, the roots of the sky-devouring rose extended out and took root in the void, stabilizing its body. Triple sword formation. Slash, slash, slash. Yi Chouxian shouted slash 3 times. His aura was like thunder. Then, the 3 swords in the sword formation vibrated. This time, 3 sword lights appeared and slashed towards Dark Knight Rose. The 3 sword lights were all incomparably large and terrifyingly powerful. They looked as if they were going to crush the sky-devouring rose. However, at this moment, the sky-devouring rose's flower suddenly grew in size. In an instant, it covered the entire sky. The black hole in the middle of the flower was especially large. It was like a giant mouth that devoured humans. A terrifying devouring power erupted from the black hole and bit down on the 3 sword lights. Buzz! The 3 sword lights vibrated non-stop and released sword lights to attack the flower petals. However, they were all devoured by the terrifying devouring power and were all sucked into the black hole. Furthermore, the flower continued to grow in size. Its devouring power continued to erupt and devour the 3 sword lights. It was going to devour the 3 sword lights. The sword lights vibrated and fought against the sky-devouring rose. However, they were no match for the sky-devouring rose and collapsed. After all, it was only 3 sword lights. It was normal for them to not be able to last long. After devouring the 3 sword lights, the sky-devouring rose began to charge towards Yi Chouxian. It was going to devour Yi Chouxian and the 3 swords. Yi Chouxian's gaze was calm. He was under the protection of the 3 swords. At the same time, the 3 swords were arranged in a mysterious trajectory and were rotating continuously. The speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. In the process of rotating, powerful sword lights were formed and slashed towards Dark Knight Rose continuously. For a moment, both sides were in a stalemate. Soon, both sides were in a stalemate for a few minutes. At this moment, a dark golden light suddenly spread out from Yi Chouxian's body. This dark golden light was like a mist that seeped out from every pore of Yi Chouxian's body. Yi Chouxian's body seemed to be dyed with a layer of dark golden paint. Ha ha ha, Yi Chouxian, you've been completely poisoned by my poison. Now, the poison is devouring your supreme heavenly power. You're going to lose. Dark Knight Rose's arrogant voice could be heard from the gigantic sky-devouring rose. How could this be? Many heavenly human tribe members turned pale and looked terrible. Yi Chouxian was going to lose. They found it hard to accept. Yi Chouxian was extremely powerful. He was already at the limit of a 12-star battle power. Such battle power was enough to dominate the entire universe for an era. However, Dark Knight Rose grew even bigger. After transforming into her true form, her battle power also increased tremendously. During the stalemate between the two, Dark Knight Rose's poison erupted and invaded Yi Chouxian's body. As such, Yi Chouxian was likely to follow in Yi Linghongye's footsteps. The supreme heavenly power in his body was being devoured. The consequences were imaginable. Is that so? I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, Yi Chouxian said indifferently. His expression was still calm. Chapter 44-29. Even though Dark Knight Rose's poison gas had entered his body, Yi Chouxian's face was still calm and his voice was filled with confidence. At this moment, Dark Knight Rose's face changed abruptly. Why? Why is the ultimate heavenly energy in your body not weakening at all? Dark Knight Rose's voice was filled with shock. Dark Knight Rose had perfect control over her poison gas. She could clearly sense how much of the enemy's energy it had devoured. However, when the poison gas entered Yi Chouxian's body, she realized that her poison gas did not devour any of Yi Chouxian's energy. This was impossible. Although the ultimate heavenly energy was powerful and mysterious, her sky devourer poison was no small matter. It was unique in the entire universe and could devour endless energy. Previously, Yi Ling Hongye's ultimate heavenly energy was also devoured by her. However, the ultimate heavenly energy in Yi Qiuxian's body did not seem to be affected at all. No matter how she tried to activate or control the sky devourer poison, it was useless. The energy in Yi Qiuxian's body was like a rock that was indestructible. I don't believe that there's any energy in this world that I can't devour other than the forbidden energy, Dark Knight Rose roared. The Sky Devourer Rose swayed and more Sky Devourer poison flowed out from the center of the flower and entered Yi Qiuxian's body. However, after a while, it was still useless. Dark Knight Rose could feel that she had not devoured any of Yi Qiuxian's energy. Instead, she had used up a lot of energy to release the Sky Devourer poison. How is this possible? Why is the energy in your body so strong? No, the energy in your body is not right. At this moment, Dark Knight Rose seemed to have discovered something and shouted in shock. Let me show you my true strength. Yi Qiuxian's cold and confident voice sounded. At the next moment, boom, a terrifying aura burst out from Yi Qiuxian's body. A vast and majestic energy burst out as if it could destroy everything. The Sky Devourer poison that Dark Knight Rose had used to invade Yi Qiuxian's body was quickly destroyed by this energy. Yi Qiuxian was shrouded by the ultimate heavenly energy. This ultimate heavenly energy had 4 different colors. At this moment, many people couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. You. 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers, the Dark Knight Rose roared in shock. The gigantic rose kept swaying as if it was shaking. The petals were trembling from the shock. Yes. 4 different utmost heavenly powers. Yi Qiuxian did not control 3 different utmost heavenly powers. Instead, he controlled 4 different utmost heavenly powers. Tianfa, Tianzhu, Tianxie, Tianshuo. The heavenly human tribe only had a total of 4 types of supreme heavenly energy. Yi Qiuxian had actually grasped all of them. The scene fell into a deathly silence at first, and then an uproar ensued. Among them, the celestial clanspeople were the most excited, the most horrified, and also the loudest. Heavens! 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers. Yi Qiuxian has actually mastered 4 types of ultimate heavenly powers. How is this possible? Legend has it that the 4 powers of the heavens are the true perfect powers of the heavens. However, it's extremely difficult to master them. In the history of the heavenly human race, not many people have been able to master them. Too strong. Yi Qiuxian is too strong. Is this Yi Qiuxian's true strength? The heavenly human tribespeople were discussing in shock. Even the exceptional sky prides were trembling. It was unknown if it was because of excitement or envy. There was only one thing in common, and that was shock. They were too shocked. Only the heavenly human tribe could truly understand what it meant to master 4 different utmost heavenly powers. That was perfection, true perfection, the perfect and flawless heavenly powers. Legend had it that in the history of the heavenly human tribe, only 2 people had truly mastered the perfect heavenly powers. One of them was an old ancestor of the heavenly human tribe from countless years ago. No one knew how long it had been since then, and no one knew if he was still alive or not. It was also that old ancestor who had brought the heavenly human tribe to such a prosperous state. The second person was an exceptional prodigy of the heavenly human tribe from 60 stellar years ago. This prodigy from 60 stellar years ago had also mastered 4 utmost heavenly powers and was extremely powerful. Back then, he had fought a bloody battle with the taboo race and killed his way to the top. Now, this existence was known as the number 1 powerhouse of the heavenly human tribe, suppressing the entire universe. Of course, that was under the condition that some of the old ancestors of the heavenly human tribe did not appear. And now, there was a third one. Fortune, the fortune of the heavenly human tribe. In the sky, the heavenly venerables of the heavenly human tribe were also extremely shocked. Then, they became excited. All of them trembled with excitement. They knew better than anyone what it meant to master the perfect heavenly powers. This meant that the heavenly human tribe would become stronger and stronger. Countless years ago, an old ancestor of the heavenly human tribe who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers led the heavenly human tribe to overcome all obstacles and finally led the heavenly human tribe to prosperity. 60 stellar years ago, the heavenly human tribe faced a huge crisis. At that time, 2 taboo races and some other heaven-defying prodigies appeared in the universe. They all rebelled against the heavenly palace and wanted to overthrow the heavenly palace. At that time, another prodigy who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers appeared in the heavenly human tribe and fought against the taboo races. In addition, with the help of some old ancestors of the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly human tribe finally protected their position in the universe. The appearance of every existence who had mastered the perfect heavenly powers was of great significance to the heavenly human tribe. This time, there was a third one. Did this mean that the heavenly human tribe could finally destroy all the rebels and truly control the eldritch universe? At that moment, the heavenly venerables thought about many things. The fusion of the 4 supreme heavenly powers can form the perfect heavenly powers. It's perfect and flawless. Although your poison is powerful, it can't devour my perfect heavenly powers, Yi Chouxian said calmly. The confidence in his eyes was even stronger. Hearing Yi Chouxian's words, everyone understood why Dark Knight Rose's poison couldn't do anything to Yi Chouxian. The perfect heavenly powers were perfect and flawless. It was perfect and flawless. The heaven-devouring poison couldn't be dealt with at all. You have mastered the perfect heavenly powers. Dark Knight Rose's incredulous voice came from the huge rose. 60 stellar years ago, she was Tang Qing's pet and had followed Tang Qing through all the battles. Back then, she had witnessed the prodigy of the heavenly human tribe 60 stellar years ago. That was an existence who could truly compete with the taboo race. He could even suppress the taboo race and was extremely powerful. Facing such an opponent, she was a little scared. Originally, I wanted to save it to deal with the taboo race. I didn't expect it to be exposed so early. Dark Knight Rose, you should be proud, Yi Chouxian's cold voice sounded. Then, he took a step forward. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.